When I entered that dark room in the spirit, I froze. Demons were sitting around a long table discussing my marriage. One of them lifted a scroll with my name on it and said, "This is the next home we will scatter." I thought my marriage problems were just misunderstandings. I never knew demons were whispering every offence, feeding every suspicion, and planning every argument. Jesus looked at me and said, "You don't fight your spouse. You are fighting what you cannot see." And then, he showed me the meeting room where demons strategized to destroy Christian marriages. And my own home was on their list. My name is Juliet Kamara from Sierra Leone. I never imagined that one argument with my husband would open a door I could not see, a door that almost destroyed my home and my soul. That day started like any other. Quiet, ordinary, but by evening, something heavy, something spiritual, was already moving in my home. It started with a small misunderstanding between me and my husband. Just a simple disagreement, but every word between us began to land like a wound. He sighed and turned away, and something inside me snapped. "Why do you always do that?" I shouted. He looked back with frustration. "If I talk, you complain. If I'm silent, you complain. Juliet, what do you really want from me?" His words cut deep, but I wasn't only reacting to him. I was reacting to something whispering in my thoughts, thoughts that felt like mine but were not mine. "He doesn't value you. You married the wrong man. Your happiness ended the day you met him." I didn't know demons could whisper like thought. I didn't know I was being pushed. My voice rose. His voice rose. The atmosphere turned cold. Before I knew it, my pride had taken the steering wheel of my emotions. I grabbed my bag and stormed out of the house. "Juliet, come back!" my husband shouted behind me, his voice breaking. "Please, don't go. Let's talk." But pride is a terrible companion. "I'm tired," I screamed. "I'm done with this marriage." I slammed the door and walked away. Outside, the air felt wrong, too cold, too heavy, as if something unseen had followed me. My hands trembled as I entered my car, tears blurred my eyes, and the whispers came again. "Leave him. You deserve better. Your life will be peaceful without him. Walk away forever." I believed those lies. I thought they were my thoughts. I sped down the road, driving faster than my emotions deserved. Then suddenly, a truck's headlights appeared from the left. I turned the wheel. But too late. The impact slammed into me, glass shattered, metal twisted, and my world went dark. A cold silence swallowed me, and then footsteps, slow, echoing, approaching. A voice filled with sorrow spoke behind me. "Juliet, you think this was just an argument, but you opened a door you could not see." I turned, and there he stood, Jesus. His eyes were full of pain, because of me. "Lord," I whispered, trembling, "what have I done?" He stepped closer and said, "Come, I will show you what truly entered your home today." When Jesus spoke those words, the darkness around me began to shift, as if the whole atmosphere reacted to his voice. My spirit trembled. I wasn't standing on ground I recognized. It felt like mist, cold, hollow, almost alive. "Lord, where am I?" I whispered. He didn't answer immediately. He only looked at me with eyes so full of sorrow that I felt exposed, like he could see every wound in my marriage, every word I had ever spoken in anger, every secret bitterness I had hidden. Then Jesus stretched out his hand toward the darkness. The ground split open. A valley appeared, deep, silent, stretching endlessly like a place where light had never existed. A cold wind rushed past me. It carried faint echoes, voices that sounded like arguments, broken promises, shouts of "I'm tired" and "leave me alone." Voices that sounded like mine. I shook violently. "Lord, what is this place?" Jesus stepped forward and every shadow bowed before his steps. "This," he said softly, "is the valley where offences grow. the unseen path couples walk when they allow anger, pride, and bitterness to guide their decisions. I swallowed hard, my heart pounding. We walked deeper into the valley. The shadows around us took shapes, arguments I and my husband had had years ago, moments I thought were forgotten, words I had spoken recklessly. I covered my ears, but the echoes grew louder. Jesus looked at me and said, "Juliet, when you speak in anger, your words don't disappear. They become seeds." The shadows took the shape of darts, sharp, glowing, fiery darts, each one representing a painful word I had released without thinking. I gasped as one dart passed near my shoulder. It felt hot, alive. "Lord," I cried, "I didn't mean those things. I was angry. I was hurting." His voice was firm but compassionate. Anger does not erase consequences, and hurt does not justify destruction. I felt my knees weaken. Jesus gently touched my shoulder and pointed ahead into the valley. A gate, massive, rusted, and trembling, stood at the far end. Dark smoke seeped out from between its cracks. My heart sank. "Lord, what is behind that gate?" He turned to me with a look that froze my soul. "The meeting room," he said, "where demons gather to plan the destruction of Christian homes." My breath left my body. Jesus stretched out his hand toward the gate. The ground began to rumble, my spirit shook uncontrollably, and as the gate slowly began to open, I heard a growl, a deep, rumbling sound that did not belong to anything human. "Juliet," Jesus said, his voice now heavy with warning. "You must see this, because your name is on their list." My heart was pounding so violently I thought it might burst. I had never seen anything like the room Jesus led me into. It was enormous, dark, cavernous, and alive. Shadows moved along the walls like living smoke, and I could hear low whispers echoing off the stone floor. At the center of the room was a massive table. Around it sat dozens of creatures, demons. I could feel their evil before I even saw them. Their eyes glowed faintly red and their laughter sounded like shattered glass scraping against metal. One of them, larger than the rest, rose. A crown of horns sat crookedly on its head, and fire seemed to dance along its blackened skin. "Commander Division," Jesus whispered softly in my ear. "This is the one responsible for sowing discord in marriages." My stomach turned to ice. I noticed that on the walls were names of couples, families. And there it was, written in glowing red letters, Juliet Kamara and husband's name. The large demon slammed its clawed hand on the table. "I see our new target," it hissed. "Juliet Kamara's home is ripe for offense. Prepare the seeds. She will walk right into them herself." I wanted to scream. My body shook uncontrollably, but Jesus' presence held me steady. I watched in horror as the demons unrolled scrolls writing down my weaknesses. Every prideful thought, every impatience, every harsh word I had ever spoken. One demon grinned, whispering, "This one will carry her anger to her husband. Another will stir suspicion in her heart. One more will feed her bitterness. And her home will fall." I felt a chill run through my soul. It was not just words, they were plans. These demons were not random. They were organized, intelligent, and strategic. Jesus leaned closer to me and said, "Every marriage is a battlefield, Juliet. Every offense you allow becomes a weapon in their hands. Most couples never even notice they are being targeted." I looked down at my hands, trembling. All the arguments, all the silent treatments, all the moments I had walked away in anger. I realized they were not just mistakes. They were openings, doors I had unknowingly left open. Then the largest demon bellowed, "We will whisper lies at midnight. We will magnify every doubt. We will create distance where love once lived. She will do it herself, and he will fall into our trap." I fell to my knees, weeping. I wanted to plead, to beg, to scream, but my voice felt trapped in my chest. Jesus placed his hand gently on my shoulder. "Look closely, Juliet. This is not just a warning. This is your home, and this is what happens when we allow bitterness to take root. The demons began to move, their whispers filling the room, targeting every flaw, every wound, every misunderstanding in my marriage. I wanted to run. I wanted to escape. But Jesus said, "No, you must see it. You must understand what you are truly up against." I shivered violently as the reality hit me. My marriage was on a battlefield, and these demons had a strategy. And I had been blind. As I remained on my knees, trembling in that dreadful chamber, the demons began to rearrange their scrolls. Their whispers sharpened. The atmosphere thickened like choking smoke. Then the commander demon snarled, "Bring the blueprint for the Kamara home." A smaller demon hurried forward, carrying a long black scroll. When it unrolled it on the table, I gasped, because it was my house. Every room, every corner, even the small prayer altar I had in the bedroom. The demon tapped the scroll with a claw. "Her weaknesses are predictable," it hissed. "Let us weaponize them." Jesus stood beside me, silent, watching. His presence comforted me, but he allowed me to hear and see every detail. Another demon stepped forward, thin, sharp, with cruel, glowing eyes. It pointed at my living room. "Here, she keeps memories of old arguments." I swallowed hard. It was true. I often replayed old hurts in my mind, even wounds my husband and I had already discussed. The demon smirked. "We will remind her of what he said in 2019. We will refresh the pain. We will add poison to her thoughts." The next demon jabbed at the kitchen on the scroll. "She takes things personally, so let us magnify every minor mistake her husband makes. If he forgets something, we turn it into rejection." They laughed. Their laughter made my bones shake. Then one pointed at the bedroom, and its voice turned darker than before. "Here we will plant silence. We will make her hold her hurt in her chest. We will make him feel unwanted. This will create emotional distance, our most powerful door." I felt like screaming. The words were knives twisting inside me because I had done exactly what they were describing. I looked at Jesus, tears falling freely. "Lord, this is what I've been doing without knowing?" He nodded gently. "Juliet, you must understand. Attacks are not always loud. Some come quietly, through your own reactions, Bastos." Before I could reply, the commander demon turned toward a dark corner. "Bring out the assignment!" A group of demons stepped forward carrying small glass jars, each filled with swirling black smoke. "What are those?" I whispered. Jesus answered softly. "These are the spirits they send. Anger, suspicion, misunderstanding, exaggeration, offense." The demons began placing the jars along the blueprint of my home. Anger on the doorway, offense on the dining table, suspicion on the bed, coldness on the prayer altar. I broke down completely. The commander lifted one final jar, its smoke darker than all the rest. "This one," it said with a wicked grin, "is the spirit of emotional withdrawal. When she releases this, her husband will feel invisible. He will begin to question her love. Then destruction is guaranteed." My breath caught in my throat. My hands shook violently. I whispered, "Lord, I opened the door to that spirit, didn't I?" Jesus placed his hand over my trembling fingers. "Yes, Juliet, but I brought you here to close the doors, not to condemn you." The demons suddenly turned their heads as if hearing a signal. The commander growled, "Prepare for deployment. Her next argument will be the gateway." I froze. My chest tightened. Jesus stepped in front of me, his light overshadowing the entire chamber. "This is why you must see, Juliet, so you will never walk blindly again." The chamber shook violently as his light grew brighter. Everything inside me knew a spiritual war was already happening in my home, and I had never once recognized the enemy. After seeing the demons assign their jars along the blueprint of my home, Jesus led me to another room, a room that made my blood run cold. It was smaller than the strategy chamber, but the air was thick, heavy, and suffocating. All around me I could see tiny glowing darts floating in the darkness. Each dart pulsed like a living thing, hungry, sharp, waiting. Lord, what is this? I whispered, my voice trembling. He looked at me, eyes full of sorrow. These, Juliet, are offences. Every harsh word, every angry thought, every act of pride becomes a dart, and demons throw them to wound hearts. I could see them clearly now. There was one labelled, "You never listen." Another burned with, "You don't care about me." Some darts were bigger, brighter, others small but jagged, like hidden insults I had thought were harmless. Then I saw one dart flying, and it pierced a figure that looked like my husband. The pain in him mirrored the dart perfectly. Every insult I had ever spoken in anger became a weapon thrown against him. My heart shattered. I had thought my words didn't matter. I had thought my anger was private, but I was wrong. Jesus knelt beside me and placed his hand on my shoulder. Offense is the seed, division is the harvest. Juliet, every argument you allow to fester becomes a weapon in the hands of the enemy. Tears streamed down my face. I tried to reach for the darts to stop them, but they moved too fast. They were alive, May. They knew exactly where to strike. One dart flew directly toward me. It burned my chest, not physically, but spiritually. I felt my own heart tightening with guilt, shame, and fear. Jesus whispered softly, "Do you see why the enemy is patient, Juliet? He does not always attack openly. He works quietly, invisibly, using what you allow." I fell to my knees, sobbing uncontrollably. Then I saw another figure, my husband. The dart struck him repeatedly and he flinched, twisted, even tried to run, but he could not escape. Jesus' voice shook me to my core. These darts are the harvest of neglect, pride, and offense. If you do not take responsibility, Juliet, this will continue and your home will fall. The chamber seemed to grow darker as I cried, and the whispers of the demons became louder, mocking me. Laughing at the pain they were causing, thriving on my ignorance, I buried my face in my hands. Lord, what can I do? I didn't know. I didn't see, I didn't understand. He placed his hand gently on my head, and the warmth of his presence calmed me, even as the darts flew around like living fire. See clearly, Juliet, you are not powerless, but you must act before the harvest is fully reaped. I looked up at him, trembling, knowing in that moment that the spiritual battle for my marriage had already begun. I realized this was more than arguments, pride, or anger. This was war. Jesus led me further into the darkness, past the chamber of offences. My legs shook with every step. The air was heavy with a strange scent, like smoke mixed with sorrow. Then we entered a room that made my heart stop. It was filled with children. Not just ordinary children. These were the spirits of children, crying endlessly, their tears pooling on the floor, glowing faintly like molten silver. I froze. My stomach twisted. These were the children affected by broken homes, anger, and division. And I saw my own children among them. Lord, I whispered, tears blinding me. Are these my children? Jesus looked at me, eyes full of compassion and grief. Juliet, every tear of pain from a child whose home is broken becomes a chain that binds hearts, futures, and destinies. The demons collect these tears to use as weapons against the parents. I fell to my knees, trembling, reaching toward the children, but my hands passed through them. They were not fully here, not fully on earth, yet fully in pain. One demon, small and twisted, hovered over a bowl. It was scooping up the children's tears and turning them into dark chains. These, it hissed, will drag the parents deeper. Each drop binds them more to misery. I began to sob uncontrollably. I realized how my anger, my pride, my unresolved offences had fed the enemy, and my own children were the ones paying the price. Jesus knelt beside me and said softly, "Juliet, this is why the home must be guarded. The fight is not just for the couple. It is for the children, for the family, and for their destinies." I looked into the eyes of my children, my own little ones. They were crying silently, reaching out, and I could feel the weight of their pain in my chest. "Every offence you allow, Juliet, every harsh word you speak, every wall you build in your home feeds this chain, and if ignored, these chains will grow forever." I fell to the ground, my face buried in my hands, shaking. "Lord, please, I didn't know. I didn't see. I don't want this for my children." Jesus' hand rested gently on my back, his warmth and light spreading through me. "Now you know, Juliet. Now you see. Go back and fight. Fight for your marriage. Fight for your home. Fight for your children." The room faded, but the pain of those children stayed in my soul. A burning reminder that this was no ordinary battle. After the children's room, Jesus led me to a place that glowed softly in contrast to the darkness I had seen so far. It was quiet, almost peaceful, but the peace was heavy, weighty, full of expectation. Before me floated a giant scroll glowing with soft golden light. Jesus pointed at it. "Juliet, this is your marriage covenant." I stared at it, my hands trembling. It was beautiful at first glance, shining, alive. But as I looked closer, I noticed cracks forming along the edges. The centre was fading, like fire had licked parts of it and left scars. "Lord, what does this mean?" I whispered. He looked at me with eyes that pierced through my soul. "Juliet, this is the spiritual reality of your marriage. Every harsh word, every act of pride, every offence. They eat away at the covenant. Some parts are still strong, but others are on the brink of collapse." I reached out to touch the scroll and immediately felt heat, like molten metal flowing over my fingers. I recoiled, gasping. Jesus continued, "This is why every couple must fight spiritually. This covenant is sacred. Neglect it, wound it, or allow offence to fester, and it begins to burn from within." I realized with horror that every argument I had thought was normal had left marks on this scroll. Every moment I held bitterness, every prideful silence had caused it to crack further. Jesus leaned closer, his voice soft but firm. "Juliet, your home is not dying from anger alone. It is dying from lack of spiritual awareness. Ignorance is the enemy's greatest weapon, but awareness can save it." Tears streamed down my face. "Lord, how do I fix it? How do I stop the cracks from spreading?" He gently touched the scroll and a warm light began to flow over the fading areas. "By forgiveness, by prayer, by humility, by love, by fighting for your marriage, as I fight for it with you. This covenant is alive because of me, but it requires your obedience and vigilance." I fell to my knees, weeping, feeling the weight of the covenant and my responsibility. Jesus said finally, "Go back, Juliet. Warn them, teach them, protect your home, and never underestimate the enemy or the price of negligence." I looked at the glowing scroll one last time, seeing both the cracks and the light, knowing that my choices on earth would decide which one grew stronger. The vision faded, but the knowledge of the covenant and its fragility stayed in my heart, burning like a fire I could never ignore. The light around me began to grow brighter. It wasn't painful, but it carried a weight, a pull toward life, toward reality. Jesus looked at me with a seriousness I had never seen before. His eyes were filled with both compassion and urgency. "Juliet, it is time to return. You must fight for your home, and you must warn others. Marriage is a battlefield, and demons are assigned to every home that refuses unity." I tried to speak, to say something, anything, but my throat felt tight, as though the words had to earn their way out. Lord, I understand. I will fight. But what if I fail? I whispered, my voice shaking. He smiled faintly. You cannot fail if you trust me. You do not fight alone. But you must act, Juliet, and act with urgency. The chamber of demons, the glowing darts, the children's tears, the glowing scroll of my marriage. All of it began to fade as I felt myself being lifted, pulled back to my body. I felt weight, heaviness, pain, and then a sudden jolt. I gasped, my eyes snapping open. I was in my car. The smell of smoke and metal filled my nostrils. The wreckage of the accident surrounded me. I screamed my husband's name. Honey, are you okay? I scrambled out of the car, heart pounding, tears streaming. Everything felt unreal, yet every vision, the demons, the darts, the scroll, the children burned in my memory. I ran into the house, bursting through the door. We need to pray, now, please. My husband stared at me, confused, terrified. I grabbed his hands and we fell to our knees together, and I began to pray, not just words, but the prayers of someone who had seen eternity. Someone who had been shown the unseen battlefield of our marriage. Lord, protect our home, heal our hearts, break every chain of offense, suspicion, and pride. Save our children, save us. My husband wept with me, holding my hands tightly, and I realized that the war had already begun. But now we would fight together. Jesus' voice echoed softly in my heart. Go, Juliet, warn them, teach them. Protect your home. Do not underestimate the enemy, and do not underestimate the power of a united family. I knew my life had changed forever. I had seen what most never see. I had been shown the strategy of demons, and I had been given a mission to protect my marriage, my children, and to warn others before it was too late. After that night, nothing was the same. The memories of the chamber of demons, the glowing darts, the children's tears, and the scroll of my marriage stayed burned in my mind. I could never go back to pretending that arguments, pride, and silence were harmless. The first thing I did was find my husband. I took his hands in mine, tears streaming down my face. Honey, I saw something you'll never believe unless you see it with me, in spirit, but I must fight for us, for our marriage, for our children. He looked at me, eyes wide, but he didn't laugh. He saw the seriousness in my voice, the fear, the urgency. We prayed together for hours, not just words, but deep, heartfelt prayers of repentance, forgiveness, and unity. Over the next days, I made changes. I stopped letting pride dictate my reactions. I apologized for every harsh word, every silent treatment, every offense I had held in my heart. And slowly, my husband began to change too. We began to communicate, pray, and build our home on the foundation of love, humility, and spiritual vigilance. I shared what I had seen with close friends and family. I warned them. The enemy targets homes, families, and marriages. What seems like a small argument or harsh word can become a weapon in the hands of the demons. Fight for your home now, before it's too late. I also began teaching in my church about spiritual warfare in marriage, warning others of what I had seen in the spirit. The change wasn't instant, and the battle isn't over, but now I fight with eyes open with faith, prayer, and awareness. And every time I see my children laugh, play, and grow, I am reminded why I cannot be silent. If you do not fight for your home, demons will. Guard it, pray for it, protect it, love it. Do not underestimate the unseen enemy or the price of negligence. This is my warning. Marriage is a battlefield, but with God your home can stand.